we had a disruption with our camera. It got hot. So
that's because you're sitting here.
In short, everything that we were talking about is an example right there, right? Flirt, right? That was an interesting way of keeping our relationship fresh and new. If you're gonna be with the same person for the rest of your life, you have to make it as interesting, as adventurous as possible. So don't shortchange your partner with not flirting with them, not communicating with them in a sexy way. All right.
Hey guys. Oh hey. It's another edition of Super Goal Sunday with Sharif and Felicia C. Ali. I have on my headscarf today because I got some very disturbing news. An old friend passed away this morning, so what a way to bring the new year. We were really trying to get this video up for you guys much earlier, but my spirits have just been kind of low. But keeping our commitment, we did still decide to go ahead and do a video. We're just not, you know, tip top. Okay, so my husband, my lovely, has come up with a very kind of funny, kind of twisty topic, which I'll let him go ahead and lead you guys to the still water.
All right, so when you sign up to get married, you're signing up for 50 years of conversation with the same person, right? And so I thought that was really interesting because I was thinking about you and I'm like, we signed up for just that. Lord willing, we make it to 50 years of marriage. Our conversation cannot be the same, because if it's the same, then it's just going to be boring. And that's a passionless, like, is passionless a real word?
I guess.
So that's like a relationship with no passion, no tension at all, right?
Sharif was talking to me about basically flirting in marriage and what that looks like in your household or in our household or in whoever's household and what it means. So he gave a story about a cable scenario, and he was comparing marriage kind of to your relationship with your cable company, even though cable has kind of become extinct because of the Fire Stick. But think back to when you guys had those $190 bills.
And when you were speaking to the customer service rep and they're like spot on selling you this product and you're like, yes, this is the best deal ever. And then you finally sign up a year later, you're like, why is my bill? You get the bill in the mail, like, why is it so high? Where did these fees come from? Then you call customer service line and they basically have the attitude of like, well, you signed up for it, you know, and you're like, yeah, but I didn't sign up for you to jack up the prices. This is not a mutual beneficial relationship anymore. And then the only time that they do right by you is when you threaten to leave them.
Right.
You know, and so for me, how that tied in was at times, especially in the dating phase, you flirt, you court real well, like you're exceptional, just like the cable company. And then people they get married, then they have the cable company marriage, where it's like when we were dating, when you wanted me to sign on to you, you were using these words that were all sexy and spicy, and this tension was built. But then now that you got used to me, you're treating me like that. You treat me old. And I mean, I can fess up and say, especially because of the change in dynamic of our marriage.
Adding kids.
Adding children. Like, we were married not even a month and found out that you were pregnant. Like, that next year we had Sharif. And then you had the miscarriage, and then we lost Saya. Excuse me. Then we had Saya. And then like the job changed on, like I'm working these crazy hours. It's like all of these changes happened, and I got caught up in the day, and our marriage for a period had turned to like that cable company marriage. And I know the part that I played in that too, not keeping that tension built up between us, not keeping it fresh and new. You know, like, we're gonna spend the rest of our lives with one another. And if that's the case, we need to keep it fresh, baby. So how that sort of corresponds with marriage is, at the end of the day, like, I think you really have to be on your A game, especially when it comes to communication. because her and Felicia and I, we signed up for the best parts of ourselves. Listen, this is what I mean. I don't care what anybody says. When we were dating, I showed you the best version of myself. Dating for us was like a movie trailer. The movie trailer didn't lie to you. Like when you got to the movie and you're like, I really didn't think the movie was what I thought it was. But they gave you the Rockstar version. But they gave you the Rockstar version. And people are all like, you know, and this is even something for dating. Like when people say you need to be yourself, and if they don't accept you for who you are, oh well, that's bullcrap. No, you be the best version of yourself. I'm supposed to give you my movie trailer. I'm supposed to show you this is what you're signing up to get. There's a whole nother layer of me that you don't know about, but these are my best qualities. And that's what you and I did, I think, in the dating stage. The wonderful part about
not me.
What works. What?
I gave you the trash version of myself.
No, you didn't.
You
what
used
the heck
to
are
say,
you talking
well,
about?
you used to say that I did everything in reverse. I gave you I presented myself as is. You presented yourself as.
Now that's where I'd have to disagree.
Okay.
Our daughter. I gave you the best versions of myself, and I never showed you the trashy parts of me. And where
for like 3 years.
Yeah, right. And for me, that worked. For me, not so much for her. She's like, "Who did I sign up for?"
Right.
But
thank you.
We got past that, you know. But the bottom line is this: where Felicia says that she gave herself, she gave me the trashy side of her. It's because she was so brutally honest with me about her past, her experiences, and to this day, there's some things that she probably regrets telling me.
Yeah, so on that, like, I think that's the direction that I would like to take the conversation for a moment, if you don't mind. I think that the question becomes, how much do you tell your spouse? Like, what is off limits? What is on cue? What's on point? What do they need to know? What types of things can you avoid? When Sharif and I were dating, I thought that it was important for him to know everything about me and my past because I didn't want anything to shock him. I didn't want him, you know, us to see somebody in the mall and them have the authority to say to him, you know, oh, I
dated your chick.
Right.
You know? No.
And so I was very upfront. We'd be walking in the mall, you know, but you forget about guys who, you know, you went to the movies with 3 or 4 times, you know, maybe you kissed them, maybe not, I don't know. Like, you forget about those characters. And so I would make sure to say, like, oh God, babe, you know, I dated him, like, real quick, you know, just to nudge him. And I find out, though, more and more in our marriage that, you know, in our dating, Sharif is very capable of withholding his emotion. He's very good at concealing his intention, if you will. And so when we were dating and I would tell him things, he'd be like, oh, okay, babe. But I noticed that as the marriage progressed and we became more comfortable and more familiar, now Sharif has no issue with saying to me, like, yeah, babe, that was a little sketchy, you know, I really didn't like that. Or, you know, like you just said to me the other day, I mean, who wants to think about their girl, you know, with another guy? And I'm like, oh, you know, I didn't know that. I thought that was okay. I thought you wanted to know all these different things about me. But looking back, when he talks about his ex, I feel away, and I make it very clear, like, it's cool that happened. I know it's the past, but I would like to think of you only being with Felicia. I want to act like no other woman happened. Right. You know, I didn't know that you felt the same way.
Of course, I feel the same way in that regard, but I think that's slightly different from what we were talking about. What is Saya doing?
She's trying to get that dinner.
Okay, babe's back. We had an interruption again. Saya was trying to pull something. Anyway, my thing is, your honesty was what I thought was your best version of you. You figure, from any one of my exes, I just gravitate and attract lying females. This is what I gravitate and attract to.
That is so.
No, like I noticed that. So when you gave me, like, just full on, here I am, this is me, that was a breath of fresh air. It did not start to affect me until we got into our relationship, and then you started to flip the script a little bit.
And why?
And yeah, well, some things you would conceal.
Because I learned that it wasn't good for you to know as much as I was telling you.
Right, you learned not from me. You didn't learn from any experience.
I did learn a little bit.
You must have learned that from other men.
No,
you didn't learn that from me.
Other men?
Yeah, you didn't learn that from me. I never told you don't tell me anything. It was when you started to
No, you never did tell me don't tell you anything. You started responding to me in ways like, okay, for instance, we would have conversations and you would go like, oh, you know, I know that you don't like X, Y, and Z because maybe I was too honest. I think you're speaking about dating people. I'm saying I was honest with you about everything.
Yeah,
so even yourself.
Okay, so she's not saying this. She's not saying that. What she's not saying is her honesty.
Eat the meat, girl.
With me.
Oh, come on.
The reason why, so say for example, she'd say, or I'd say to her, babe, I know that you probably don't like me to do this because you told me back in '89 you had a boyfriend who did that and you didn't like it. All right. So granted, those were just reference points, right? And so the mistake that I made was I made you the Felicia in 2008 or 2009 or 2010.
In that moment. And that was...
That I tried to make you 1989 Felicia.
Right.
And it was 2010. So I understand that's where my mistake was. And you're like, maybe I shouldn't have told you that story.
Right.
Which I get that. However, that's what I think helps to add great layers to our relationship too. So yeah, we were anyway, I mean, we can talk about that all day. I think that if you're with someone who you know you can trust them, yes baby, you can trust them with the information that you're giving them and you know that it's not going to come back bite you in the future. For example, if you tell them something, I think everybody should test your partner. Test them and tell them something that you normally wouldn't tell them and see how they react. Based on the way that they react, you'll know what you should give to that person and what you should.
But that's not true because that's not true. That's not true. That's not true.
Why?
He reacted like this. This is me. I murdered someone. How'd that make you feel? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Best version of myself.
That's what he would do.
Best version of myself.
Naturally, I could say I murdered someone else.
Right. Any information that I ever known about my wife, it's because I needed to assess what are you capable of. How are you capable of loving me? How are you capable of hurting me? And she knew it too.
Very smart.
She wanted to know. She wanted me to know this is what I'm capable of. She may not have been thinking about it that way, but that's what she showed me. And that was her playing full on and her being the best version of herself for me. She's perfect for me. Any information that you gave me was not used against you in the court of law.
In the court of love.
In the court of love. It was never used.
Kind of.
Like, but kind of not.
I think that it's important to flirt with your partner. And I think it's important to be honest with your partner. But I think that flirting and honesty has a place. I think that if you conduct your marriage like your spouse is supposed to look at you starry-eyed, you know, every moment of every day of every year, I think that you have a Kim Kardashian marriage. And anyone who knows me knows I love Kim, but you have to admit that Kim and J-Lo, they live in Maryland, and they want it seems that they always want these perfect storybook romances that they just simply don't exist. I mean, you can have your Prince Charming, but you have to be prepared for Prince Charming to be personal. He's a human being, and same with your woman. She's gonna get a period. So flirting is important, but it's also important to realize that when your relationship takes a new form, that's not the end of the relationship. And you're not doomed because you and your spouse are not maybe as into one another as you perhaps may have been in the past. You do the best that you can to keep it fresh.
It does feel like the end.
Well, oh yeah.
That's crazy. It does feel like that. It's interesting.
Yeah. You have something to say about it?
No. I just.
Yeah, it feels like, oh my God, they're not into me. Yeah. Oh, they don't love me or whatever. Right. You know, it's not. It changes.
Right.
It changes, and then you get back to that place. You know, and if it's changed again, and you're happy, and everything works out. If you keep pressing, and then in terms of being honest with one another. I think that there's certain things that you need to be honest about, and I think that there's certain things that you don't need to be honest about. I was having a nervous breakdown. I was I'm about to contradict him, guys. I was having a nervous breakdown because I like everything to be perfect. We have 2 remotes of the same in the house, and the back to the remote in the bedroom, which is the television that I have access to, came up missing. It came up missing. And, you know, Sharif likes to put things wherever. And so, obviously, I thought it was him. I don't keep my remotes in low places. My children don't have access to my remotes. And so, I'm freaking out one night, basically in my little wife way. Like, oh my God, I cannot believe you lost this back into the remote. The car has crashed. You know, we're women. We're like spaghetti. We bring everything. Everything is one. So I'm starting talking about the car. I'm talking about the dent on the door. I'm talking about I'm just naming everything that he does that annoys me because I like things to be a certain way, and he just really doesn't care. So he goes into, he walks around, you know, frantically around the room. He's looking for this remote, and he goes in his closet, and he's like, I found the backing to the remote. And I'm happy. I'm like, yes, he found it. This was about a month ago. So the other day, I have the kids watching My Baby Can Read in his office, and I pick up his remote, and what's missing?
The back.
Right. Now, was it okay for my husband to be dishonest with me? Yes. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it spared me the stress. It was unnecessary stress. You know what I mean? I'm sitting up here freaking out about the backing to the remote. And he just wanted to lay down and watch TV. So in order to just soothe that moment, it was not life-changing. It was not marriage-changing. He told a little white lie. Who cares? I'm saying that to say that's how I feel you need to be about certain aspects. You don't need to tell your spouse. Obviously, I never want Sharif to be caught out there. But there are certain things that break your relationship. You don't need to know every single thing about your partner, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure. Oh, that's what I want to talk about. I wanted to say that our next week's vlog was going to be about what we talked about, and I just lost it again. So thanks for watching. When something seems bad, turn it around and make something good. Peace.
Blessings. Happy New Year.